I Fucked a Phoenix. By Lisa Faye. Chapter 1. They dragged me back to the bar and dropped me at his feet like a broken trophy. My knees hit the ground hard, and the air escaped my lungs in a ragged gasp. There he stood, Cole Hart, my jailer, my mate, my tormentor. The very sight of him sent a shiver through me, though I'd never admit it aloud. He looked every bit the menace that haunted my waking hours. His leather jacket clung to his broad shoulders, the material well-worn yet commanding, as though it bore witness to countless conquests and cruelties. Chains glinted faintly under the dim lights, accenting his dark and imposing presence. His hair, a deep raven black streaked with fiery copper, seemed to smolder in the light, catching movement like it held embers barely restrained. And his eyes, those burning, molten gold eyes, pierced through me as though I were nothing more than glass. Even standing still, he was a storm barely contained, his energy crackling in the air around him. The subtle heat radiating from his body wasn't an illusion, it was real, and it pressed against my skin like the edge of a flame. "Foolish girl," he said, his voice a low growl, dark and molten. It rolled over me like thunder. "Don't you understand? No matter how many times you run, my men will drag you right back." I gritted my teeth, refusing to bow to the inferno that was Cole Hart. "I am not your prisoner," I spat, my voice defiant despite the tremor I felt in my chest. His lips curled into a smirk, dark and knowing. "No," he said, drawing out the word like a predator toying with its prey. "You are my mate, which is a fate far worse than that." "I never asked for this," I snapped, feeling my anger rise despite the circumstances. "You needn't have to," he replied smoothly, stepping closer. The heat of him became unbearable, and I fought the urge to shrink away. "You were born to be this. You were born with the mark of the phoenix on your arm. So, stop trying to run. I will always find you. I sense you, stupid little girl." His words burned like coals in my ears, but I refused to let him see the cracks forming in my resolve. I opened my mouth to respond, to lash out, but before I could, his hand came down, sharp and fast. The back of it struck my face, snapping my head to the side. Pain blossomed across my cheek, but I refused to cry out. Blood pooled on my lip, and I spat it at his feet, the defiance in my eyes unwavering. Cole's gaze darkened, his smirk disappearing. "Turn her around," he barked at the men who had dragged me here. Rough hands gripped my shoulders and forced me down, pressing me until my face was near the floor. My knees scraped against the ground, and humiliation burned hotter than the fire Cole carried within him. Even from this angle, pinned and powerless, I could still see him. The arrogance in his stance, the primal energy radiating from him, it all set my blood on fire in ways I couldn't explain. He was chaos personified, a force that couldn't be tamed or reasoned with. "You will learn," he said, his tone chilling despite the fire in him. "Defy me, and I will remind you of your place." His imposing figure loomed above me, a dark shadow of authority and menace. The subtle, deliberate motion of his hand as he reached into his jacket sent a chill racing down my spine. When he withdrew the baton, a sleek, cylindrical weapon made of cold, unforgiving metal, I knew exactly what was coming next. My breath hitched, and dread coiled tightly in my chest, suffocating and inescapable. With my hips still raised off the floor, he reached down and yanked my trousers down in one swift, humiliating motion. "No, please," I choked out, desperation lacing my voice. "Not again." He crouched closer, his tone low and merciless. "You misbehaved," he said, each word heavy with menace. "You know exactly what happens when you do that." A sharp cry escaped my lips as the cold, unyielding baton was forced against me, the pain immediate and searing. Between gasps and cries, his voice cut through the haze of pain like a blade. "Will you disobey me again?" he asked, his tone chillingly calm. "No," I whimpered, the word barely audible between my trembling breaths. "Will you try to run again?" he demanded, his voice sharper now, demanding submission. "No," I sobbed. "Stop, please. No more, it hurts." But my pleas fell on deaf ears. He continued without pause, relentless and unyielding. pushing me further into a spiral of humiliation and despair. When he finally stopped, a suffocating silence followed. With a cold, detached gesture, he signaled to his men. They grabbed me roughly, dragging me upstairs without a word. My body felt limp, broken, as they shoved me into my room and slammed the door shut. The sound of the lock turning echoed in my mind long after the door had been slammed shut. I lay crumpled on the cold, unforgiving floor of the small room, my breath coming in shallow, uneven gasps. Every inch of me ached, the sting of raw skin, the bruises forming deep beneath the surface, and the sharp, lingering humiliation that burned hotter than any physical pain. I curled in on myself, pulling my knees to my chest as if I could somehow make myself smaller, as if I could vanish into the cracks of the floorboards. But there was no escape, not from this room, not from the torment that hung over me like a storm cloud, and certainly not from him. Tears slipped down my cheeks silently, my throat too raw to sob aloud. The humiliation was suffocating. My skin felt like it didn't belong to me anymore, like it had been branded by his touch, his voice, his power. Even here, alone in the silence, I could feel him, his molten gaze searing into my mind, his words echoing over and over. "You misbehaved. You know what happens when you do that." I pressed my palms to my ears as though I could block it out, but it was no use. The words had carved themselves into my soul. A single, weak light bulb hung from the ceiling, flickering intermittently and casting long, shifting shadows across the room. The walls, bare and cold, seemed to close in around me. I dragged myself to the corner and leaned against the wall, its chill biting through my thin shirt. My knees trembled as I pulled them tighter to my chest, every movement a reminder of the punishment I had just endured. This wasn't just a room, it was a prison, and I was its lone, broken inmate. I could still feel the phantom hands of his men on my shoulders, the pressure of being held down, powerless. I stared at the door, my vision blurring with fresh tears. The lock was a symbol of my defeat, a cruel reminder that no matter how hard I fought, I was trapped. Trapped by walls, by chains, by his relentless hold over me. Anger bubbled beneath the surface, twisting with my pain, my shame. It burned, wild and chaotic, but it was powerless in the face of his strength. What was the point of defiance when it only brought me here, shattered and discarded like a rag doll? And yet, despite everything, there was a tiny ember buried deep within me, refusing to be snuffed out. It flickered faintly, barely alive, but it was there, a fragile, stubborn reminder that I was still breathing, still here. Even as I sat in the dark, broken and defeated, part of me clung to the idea that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end. But right now, hope felt like a distant star, unreachable and cold. All I could do was exist in the moment, drowning in the relentless waves of pain and anguish, and pray that somehow, against all odds, I could find a way to survive him. Chapter 2. My phone chimed, the sound sharp and jarring in the suffocating silence of the room. For a moment, I just stared at the glowing screen, reluctant to move. My body was still aching, my pride shattered, but curiosity got the better of me. The message read, "Stop squirming and get to sleep already." I felt a rush of anger flare through me. Even now, even after everything, he couldn't leave me alone. With trembling fingers, I typed back, "Like you care." The response came almost immediately, as if he'd been waiting. "I don't, but I can't sleep because of you." The sheer arrogance of his words made me want to scream. I shot back, "But I'm not making any sound." There was a pause, just long enough for unease to creep in before his next message arrived. "You don't get it, do you?" My brows furrowed as I stared at the words, the knot of anger and confusion tightening in my chest. "Get what?" "That you're an asshole." I replied, my fingers hitting the screen harder than necessary. His answer was quick and sharp, cutting through the fragile sense of control I thought I had. "The bond, you stupid girl. But I'll show you." Before I could process the words, a strange sensation washed over me. It started as a low hum, a subtle warmth spreading through my body. But then it grew, intensifying, until it became an unbearable heat pooling between my legs. My breathing hitched, my heart pounding in confusion and alarm. "No, I whispered to myself, shaking my head as if I could will the feeling away. It wasn't me, it couldn't be me. I was angry, humiliated, and in pain. There was no reason for this, no reason for the sudden, overwhelming need coursing through me. My thighs clenched involuntarily as the heat grew, and I bit my lip, desperate to fight the traitorous moan threatening to escape. My skin prickled, burning with a foreign yearning, and my hands curled into fists as I resisted the urge to touch myself. What? What is this? I murmured, my voice trembling. I didn't understand. My body was betraying me, craving something it had no right to after everything that had happened. And then, as quickly as it began, the feeling vanished. The heat dissipated, leaving me trembling and breathless in its wake. My phone chimed again, the sound cutting through the heavy silence like a knife. I know you felt it. I heard you moan. My blood turned cold. My fingers trembled as I typed back, that was you. There was no doubt in my mind now. The strange, overwhelming sensation, the burning heat, it wasn't mine. It was him. Somehow, he had done this. His reply came a moment later, blunt and unapologetic. Now sleep. Tomorrow, I have an important meeting. I stared at the screen, my body still trembling, my mind reeling. There was no escape from him, not in this room, not in my mind, not even in my own body. Chapter 3. Before he headed to the meeting, the sound of the door unlocking jolted me from my restless thoughts. My body tensed, my pulse quickening as the door creaked open. And there he was, Cole. He exuded the same smoldering intensity that always left me breathless, whether in anger, fear, or something more dangerous. The leather jacket clung to his broad shoulders, the dark fabric hinting at the powerful physique beneath. His hair, dark as midnight, fell messily over his forehead, and his presence filled the room with an electric charge that made the air feel heavy and oppressive. I hope you'll be a good girl today, he said, his voice low and sharp, like the edge of a blade. And that I won't have to send my men after you again. He stepped closer, his boots thudding softly against the floor. The heat radiating from him was palpable, brushing against my skin like an unspoken warning. My throat went dry, and all I could manage was a small nod. Good girl, he murmured, a flicker of satisfaction in his eyes. I'll come see you after I'm done. And just like that, he turned and left, the door locking behind him with a finality that echoed in the silence. I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time after he'd gone, staring blankly at the walls of my makeshift prison. The room felt suffocating, its gray walls pressing in around me like a cage. My body still ached from the punishment of the night before, but my mind was restless, unable to stop replaying the events of the past few hours. My gaze fell on my phone, resting on the nightstand. Memories of last night's texts resurfaced, and a strange thought wormed its way into my mind. If I felt him through the bond, does it work the other way around? The idea was reckless, dangerous even, but I couldn't shake it. My lips curled into a faint, mischievous smile as the thought lingered. Slowly, I stood, my movements deliberate as I slid off the oversized shirt I had slept in. The cool air brushed against my bare skin, raising goosebumps as I climbed onto the bed. I lay back against the pillows, letting my fingers trail lightly over my skin. My hands brushed over my breasts, the sensation sending a soft tingle down my spine. I bit my lip, hesitant but emboldened by the possibility that he might feel this too. My touch grew bolder, tracing slow paths down my abdomen and over the curve of my hips. My thighs parted instinctively, anticipation building as my hand drifted lower. Just as my fingers brushed against the sensitive warmth between my legs, my phone chimed. The message was sharp, almost scolding, "Stop that immediately." I stared at the screen, my heart racing. His words weren't just a command, they were confirmation. He felt me. He was connected to me as intimately as I was to him. A rush of defiance surged through me. I glared at the text, then set the phone aside, ignoring his demand. My fingers returned to their exploration, tracing slow, lazy circles over the spot that made me shiver. A moan escaped me, soft and involuntary, as I pressed against the growing heat. My body arched slightly, lost in the moment, until the door suddenly slammed open. The sound was deafening, and I froze, my hand snapping away as Cole stormed in. His entire body was tense, his jaw clenched and his chest rising and falling with barely contained fury. His eyes burned, brighter than ever, and faint wisps of smoke curled from his shoulders, as if the fire within him was threatening to break free. I grabbed the sheets in a futile attempt to cover myself, my cheeks flushing hot with embarrassment. But despite my situation, I couldn't suppress the smirk that tugged at the corner of my mouth. "I told you to stop," he growled, his voice thunderous. "And you deliberately ignored it." He took a step closer, and I tightened my grip on the sheets, my heart pounding. "I told you I have an important meeting, and you should behave," he barked again, the heat of his anger filling the room. I watched him warily as he loomed over me, waiting for the inevitable. My mind raced with possibilities, his baton, his hand, or something worse. I braced myself, holding my breath as he stared at me, his fiery gaze searing into mine. But nothing happened. He didn't move, didn't lash out. He just stood there, his chest heaving as if he was fighting some internal battle. Then, without a word, he turned on his heel and walked out, the door slamming shut behind him. I exhaled shakily, clutching the sheets against me as I tried to steady my racing heart. My smirk faded, replaced by a mix of confusion and unease. For the first time, I wondered if I had pushed him too far, and if I would live to regret it. Chapter 4. He returned a few hours later, his presence filling the room like a sudden storm. His steps were deliberate, the weight of his frustration practically crackling in the air around him. He stopped just inside the doorway, arms crossed, his piercing gaze fixed on me. "I told you to behave," he said, his voice low but heavy with authority. "I told you how important that meeting was, and what did you do? You forced me to leave it to deal with you. Tell me, girl, are you that desperate for my attention?" I didn't answer. Instead, I sat on the bed, my back straight and my chin raised defiantly, though the pounding of my heart betrayed the calm I tried to project. He tilted his head, a humorless smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Tell me, do I need to call my men, or will you sort yourself out and sit still like a good girl?" As he spoke, he reached into his jacket, pulling out the baton he seemed so fond of. The sight of it sent a jolt of fear through me. My breath caught, and instinctively, I jerked back further onto the bed, retreating like prey trying to escape its hunter. The smirk vanished. His expression darkened. "So be it," he muttered. He snapped his fingers, and the door behind him opened. Two of his men strode in without hesitation, their faces cold and unreadable. Before I could react, they grabbed me. My struggles were no match for their strength as they dragged me down, pinning me flat on my stomach against the sheets. My arms were restrained, my body pressed into the mattress. The chill of the baton met my skin, the metal cold and unyielding as it traced the line of my back. A shiver ran through me, not just from the sensation but from the sheer powerlessness of the moment. I can feel the baton on my arm, it's hard and cold as the material it's made of. Just as before, he forces it in and I cry out. He repeats the motion over and over again. Through cries of pain and tear I manage to muster, "You always shove your stick down my ear but never yourself." Makes one wonder, are actually capable of it? I felt his frustration intensifying through the bond, the force of his actions matching the surge of his emotions. His anger was like a storm, battering at me, leaving me breathless. The pain was overwhelming. My body trembled with it, the sensation too much to bear, yet my voice still had found its way through the tears. "You couldn't handle my heat," his voice sliced through the agony, sharp and biting, carrying with it the weight of his pride. And just like that, it was over. He stopped, and without another word, he turned, leaving me behind. His men followed, their presence lingering for a moment before the door clicked shut. I reached for the sheets, desperately trying to shield myself, not just from the physical discomfort, but from the deeper, more soul-wrenching sting of my vulnerability. Exhausted, I curled into the bed, unable to fight the pull of sleep, my mind too heavy to stay awake. Chapter 5. I woke up the next morning to the soft light filtering through the curtains, casting faint shadows across the room. The sheets clung to my skin as I stirred, my body aching from the previous day's torment. I shifted in the bed, trying to escape the remnants of pain that seemed to pulse through my muscles, but I couldn't. A slow, aching burn still lingered in every part of me, keeping me rooted in place. As I sat up, my eyes naturally drifted to the ceiling. There, in the quiet stillness of the room, I noticed it. A dark, jagged mark marred the smooth surface above me, a blackened scorch, the shape unfamiliar and unnatural. I stared at it, my heart skipping a beat, wondering how something like that could have appeared overnight. It looked as though it had been burned into the plaster, an ominous sign I couldn't quite grasp. But my thoughts were abruptly cut short as the door flew open with a crash. He was there, standing in the doorway, his figure blocking the light behind him. His presence was overwhelming, suffocating even. His gaze locked onto me without a word. "On your knees," he commanded, his voice cold and final. I didn't move at first, staring at him, feeling a rebellious defiance rising in my chest. But it was fleeting, so fleeting. He didn't wait for me to comply. Without warning, he grabbed a fistful of my hair and yanked me to the floor. The sudden force of it took my breath away, and I winced as the sting of his grip sent a jolt of pain through my scalp. He dragged out every word as if savoring them. "On your knees." I didn't have a choice but to obey, my body trembling as I staggered to my knees. I looked up at him, his towering form dominating the space between us. My heart pounded, but I said nothing, silently acquiescing to his control, the weight of his presence pressing down on me like a physical force. "What now? You're going to fuck my mouth with your stick?" I paused shortly but continued before I lose my courage. "If you keep on fucking me against my will, at least be a man and fuck me with your cock," I said as I stared at his jacket, at the place from where he would always draw his baton, his weapon of torment. He let out a low guttural chuckle. "Foolish girl. I'd burn you from the inside out. Or maybe it's just small and you're embarrassed," I added. The sound of the slap cracked through the air, sharp and unforgiving. His hand moved swiftly, a blur of motion, and in an instant, the impact landed across my cheek. The sting was immediate, a hot pulse of pain that radiated through my skin. My head jerked to the side, my hair whipping with the force, leaving a faint burning sensation where his hand had struck. With a deliberate move, he slowly unzipped his pants. I let out a gasp as I stared at his huge length. Not only it was long but also thick, hard and pulsing straight in front of me. "Open," he said as he grabbed my hair, yanking my head back. He shoved it in my mouth as I let out another gasp at him pulling my hair. He pushed himself hard down my throat, my lips could barely fit him, my mouth. I was choking at his length, at his force. But then I started to get hot, it started to get hot, like really heated, my tongue felt like burning. He withdrew abruptly, storming out of the room with such haste that he didn't even bother to shut the door behind him, let alone lock it. I brought my trembling hand to my mouth, tracing the tender outline of my lips. The sting was sharp, a lingering burn that pulsed with every breath I took. But I didn't have time to focus on the pain. The door stood ajar, inviting, almost daring me to act. My heart pounded against my ribs, the thought of freedom too tantalizing to ignore. Without hesitation, I arose, my legs unsteady beneath me, and stepped outside. Chapter 6. As I wander through the dimly lit corridor, my bare feet brush against the cold stone floor. The walls, clad in ornate moldings, seem to stretch endlessly, the flickering sconces casting dancing shadows that loom and shift as if alive. The faint scent of cedar and something metallic lingers in the air, mingling with the oppressive silence. I soon find myself standing before a massive set of double doors, their dark wood etched with intricate carvings, almost alive with their imposing presence. Before I can take another step, the doors creak open on their own, revealing him standing there. "And where do you think you're going?" I freeze, my pulse quickening, but I force myself to reply, my voice steady despite the panic rising in my chest. "To the garden." A smirk plays on his lips, cold and calculated. "Here, let me help you." Before I can register what he's said, his hand latches onto mine. His grip is searing, his touch like fire branding my skin. In one swift motion, he drags me to the open window and hurls me through it. The rush of air steals the scream from my lungs, and I gasp, bracing for the inevitable impact. The shock of icy water engulfs me as I crash into the swimming pool below with a resounding splash. The cold swallows me whole, a stark contrast to the burning imprint of his hand still lingering on my wrist. Before I can gather my bearings, strong hands grab me, pulling me from the water. His men, ever-present and merciless, haul me back to face him. I stand dripping and shivering, held in place by their iron grip, my arms locked behind me. He stares at me with cold fury, his eyes alight with disdain. I leave the door unlocked, and this is how you thank me? By defying me once more? His hand moves to his jacket, retrieving his baton with deliberate menace. But this time, the punishment isn't met with the same familiar sequence. I am not yanked to the ground, instead, I am kept upright, pinned between the vice-like grips of his men, completely at his mercy. Open, he says, and when he sees I don't, he gestures to one of the men who pulls my head backwards by the hair. And he pulls until I can no longer fight a gasp. With my lips parted he puts the baton in my mouth, pushing it slow and deliberate. I can feel his arousal through the bond. He's enjoying this, savoring it. He doesn't stop, he keeps going. It's already in the back of my mouth, my throat, but he keeps pushing. My eyes widen as I struggle to draw another breath in. He takes his hand off it, leaving it in place, and takes a step back, looking at me try to take a breath. Tears form in the corner of my eyes and everything soon goes black. Chapter 7. I woke up to an unfamiliar room. The walls were draped in deep shades of charcoal, casting shadows that danced under the dim amber glow of a single hanging light. Heavy curtains, thick and black as ink, covered the windows, allowing only faint slivers of light to peek through. The air carried a faint scent of cedarwood and something else, a sharper, almost metallic tang. The space felt vast, almost oppressive, with its cold marble floors and sparse furniture that exuded a rigid, masculine elegance. As I took in the room, still groggy and disoriented, a soft click broke the silence. The door creaked open, and he stepped in, his presence commanding and unapologetically casual. A towel hung low around his hips, droplets of water still clinging to his broad chest and dampening his dark hair, a clear indication he had just showered. And then it hit me, like a punch to the gut, I was in his room. "You're awake. Good," he said, his piercing gaze locking onto mine, holding it like a steel trap. "What am I doing in your room?" I asked, sharper than I intended, my voice trembling with both accusation and unease. A chilling thought crept into my mind. "Did you?" My hand gestured vaguely toward my body, my stomach twisting at the implications of my unfinished question. His face remained unreadable, his tone calm but tinged with condescension. "I didn't do anything to you in that state. I just carried you here after you passed out in my office." "After you made me pass out, you mean?" "Tomato, tomato," he replied with an infuriating smirk, the words deliberately nonchalant, dismissing my accusation as trivial. "And you carried me? Why not have your goons do it? Or better yet, throw me in my room, like you always do?" "Maybe I felt generous," he said with a shrug, his voice laced with a hint of mockery. "Right," I muttered, my tone dripping with disbelief. "Why do you always have to test me?" His voice sharpened, frustration evident. "Test my patience like this? You mean act like a prisoner?" I paused, my voice growing colder as I continued. "Probably because that's what I am to you." "You are much more than that," he snapped, his tone hard, his words laced with something unspoken. "But yesterday, I left you unlocked. And what was the first thing you did? You tried to run, again." He didn't wait for a reply, his voice dropping an octave, the weight of his words pressing against me. "It's the 5th time already, and you still keep doing it. Can you blame me?" I shot back, my voice rising. "I didn't ask for any of this. Can't you understand?" His tone grew darker, his frustration palpable. "I'm trying to protect you." "Protect me? By keeping me locked up? By forcing that on me, I gestured toward the leather jacket casually draped over the chair, my implication clear. "I need to punish you somehow," he said coldly. "And I don't want to break your bones. Or not too many of them, if it comes to that." "Such a gentleman," I hissed, sarcasm spilling from my lips. "And yet," he said, his voice softening into something more dangerous, "I don't let you turn to ash." "Ash?" I repeated, confusion knitting my brows together. "If you stray too far from me, you'll catch fire," he said plainly. "Burn out completely. You'd turn into a pile of ash in minutes." "I don't believe you." "You're just saying that," I countered, crossing my arms in defiance. "Fine." He gestured toward the door, his face unreadable. "Go. I won't stop you this time." I blinked, caught off guard by the sudden shift in his demeanor. "I mean it," he added. "Go. You can even take the car." He tossed a set of keys in my direction, and I caught them instinctively, my heart pounding. Without hesitation, I bolted for the door, my steps quick and unsteady. I didn't look back, not once. My feet barely touched the ground as I ran toward the sleek car parked outside. Sliding into the driver's seat, I jammed the keys into the ignition and floored the pedal, speeding away with nothing but the sound of the roaring engine behind me. For half an hour, I drove like a woman possessed, the world outside blurring into a haze. Nothing had happened. No fire, no ash, just the open road stretching before me. "Ha!" I breathed out a laugh, relief flooding my chest. He was bluffing. But the moment the thought crossed my mind, an intense heat surged through my body. My skin felt like it was being seared from the inside out, every nerve alight with unbearable pain. My hands trembled on the wheel, my fingers smoking at the tips as though set ablaze. I let out a strangled scream, my lungs burning, and the car veered off the road. The world spun around me as the car plunged into a ravine. The impact jarred my senses, but the pain didn't stop. It consumed me. I gasped, clawing at the air as everything turned into an inferno. The sky above me lit up in flames, and just when I thought the fire would devour me, I felt a strong force wrench me free. His eyes were the last thing I saw, burning, molten, unyielding. They locked onto mine, and the world faded into black. Chapter 8. I wake up to a huge throbbing headache, the dull ache pulsing behind my eyes. Blinking against the faint light filtering through the heavy curtains, I realize where I am, his bedroom. The sheets beneath me are soft, the faint scent of cedar and something distinctly him lingering in the air. I shift slightly, the movement causing a rustle, and that's when I notice him lying next to me. He is asleep, his face turned toward me, his breathing slow and even. The top half of his body is bare, the smooth, sculpted lines of his chest and shoulders exposed. I try not to notice how his skin glows faintly in the dim light, or how relaxed he looks, free of the usual tension that hardens his features when he's awake. His dark lashes rest against his cheekbones, framing a face that's unfairly beautiful, sharp yet softened in sleep. My gaze trails to the sheets pulled low around his waist, and I freeze, my breath catching in my throat. Is he completely naked? The thought sends a jolt through me, but I don't dare look further to find out. Without thinking, I reach out, my hand moving on its own accord toward his face. My fingertips hover near his jaw for a moment, hesitating, before brushing softly against his cheek. Before I can pull back, his hand shoots up, catching mine. My pulse stutters as he guides my hand to his lips, planting a feather-light kiss in the center of my palm. The warmth of his breath lingers, and without opening his eyes, he turns my hand, pressing it gently against his cheek. His own hand rests over mine, holding it in place as if it belongs there. I don't move. I don't dare. My heartbeat thrums in my chest, louder than it should be, and for the briefest moment, the world narrows to the quiet intimacy of this unexpected gesture. With his eyes still closed, his hand shifts from mine, trailing slowly down to my waist. His touch is warm, almost protective, as his fingers play gently across my side. In one fluid motion, he pulls me closer, drawing me against his chest. I freeze for a moment, caught between the instinct to pull away and the unfamiliar comfort of his embrace. His chest is firm and solid, his warmth seeping into me as if shielding me from the lingering chill of the room. Then, he murmurs something, his voice barely audible, soft and low, like the remnants of a dream. You. Safe. The word lingers in the quiet, wrapping around me like a promise. It's almost enough to make me question the man he is when he's awake, the sharp edges of his anger, the cold steel of his control. Here, he feels entirely different, raw and unguarded in a way I didn't think possible. His hand remains steady on my waist, anchoring me there as if he's afraid I'll vanish if he lets go. And though every instinct in me screams to fight this vulnerability, to resist the strange calm settling over me, I find myself staying. I let out a soft breath, my body slowly relaxing as I surrender into his embrace. His warmth surrounds me, his rhythmic breathing lulling me into a fragile sense of peace. I close my eyes, letting myself melt into the quiet intimacy of the moment. For the first time in what feels like forever, the chaos inside me stills. His body radiates a heat that seeps into my own, chasing away the lingering cold and fear. And as his whispered word, safe, echoes in my mind, I let the heaviness of the night slip away. Wrapped in his warmth, I surrendered to the pull of sleep once more, my body pressed against his, my mind carried into a fleeting sense of calm. Chapter 9. By the time I wake up, the evening light filters through the window, casting soft shadows across the room. The bed beside me is cold, and the absence of his warmth lingers, an unexpected ache I hadn't anticipated. On the nightstand, a note lies in his neat handwriting, I had something to take care of. I'll be in my office. Come see me when you wake up. There are new clothes on the chair by the window. After dressing, I make my way toward his office, my footsteps echoing in the quiet hallway. I knock, and a voice, low and commanding, calls from the inside. Come in. I push open the door and step inside. He looks up from his desk, an unreadable expression on his face. You don't look as bad as I would have expected, considering the car crash. The words catch in my throat, my voice trembling slightly as I speak. Thank you. For saving me. His gaze softens for a brief moment, before he replies with quiet certainty. I told you that you would combust. I lower my head slightly, feeling the weight of my regret. I'm sorry. For not believing you. He studies me for a moment, then asks, his tone firm but not unkind, will you listen to me now? Obey when I ask you to? I nod, but the words slip out before I can stop myself. Will you still use your baton on me? His face hardens for a moment, his voice sharp. Don't get ahead of yourself. He pauses, then the sharpness fades slightly, replaced by something else. How about we start with me not locking your door? I meet his gaze, and though I don't speak, my resolve is clear. I won't run again. Not after what happened. His eyes flicker with a hint of approval, but he continues, his voice low. You're free to roam the grounds around the estate, but don't cross the forest boundary. You know what will happen if you do. I swallow hard, the question I've been holding and finally slipping out. Why did you save me? He doesn't immediately answer, instead asking, are you not grateful? I am, I say quickly, but my curiosity still lingers. I just wanted to understand. He stands, pushing his chair back and parting his legs as he does. His eyes lock onto mine with a quiet intensity. How about I tell you, right after you show me just how grateful you are? I feel the weight of his words, and without hesitation, I step forward, kneeling before him, a silent surrender that speaks volumes. I unzip his pants with slow deliberate movement as if to stall the inevitable, but he doesn't say anything, he lets me go at my own pace. I take his cock in my hand, stroking it gently. Escapes his lips and I can't help but smile. I can barely fit it in my mouth without struggle, but still I push through. As I manage to take it all in and start sucking at it, he gestures me to stop and sit on the opposite chair. Without giving it much thought I do so. He zips his pants and continues as if nothing. You asked me why I saved you. He says, and I blink, stunned. I had expected him to force himself on me, to act on his earlier demands, but instead, he speaks so casually. I keep my mouth shut, unsure of how to respond. I've had many mates before you, but none have made it this far into the process, so close to the ceremony. He pauses, his eyes narrowing slightly. And none of them meant as much to me as you do. I swallow, unsure how to react. You have a strange way of showing you care, I say, unable to mask the bitterness in my voice. As I told you before, punishment is separate from all that, he says with a cold finality. It's necessary, but it's not personal. I can feel my pulse quicken, and I can't stop myself from asking, what happened to your previous mates? He smirks slightly, almost amused. Ever the curious one, aren't you? I just nod, waiting. They died, he continues, his voice flat. Either in flames when they tried to escape, or by my hand, whether directly or indirectly. The statement chills me. I try not to let the fear show, but I can feel my eyes widen. His gaze sharpens as he notices the change in me. If I wanted you dead, he says, his voice softening just a bit, I wouldn't have come flying to save you, now, would I? A quiet relief fills me, though it feels odd to trust his words. I guess not, I reply, my voice more subdued now. He stands up from behind the desk, his movements deliberate. Join me in my room tonight, he suggests, his eyes lingering on me in a way that I can't fully decipher. We could talk some more. I raise an eyebrow, skeptical. Just talk? The question slips out before I can stop it. Just talk, he confirms, his voice steady. But right now, I have a meeting. You can either wait for me in my room or yours. It's up to you. I hesitate, then make up my mind. I'll be in your room. I could use a shower. He chuckles softly, the sound like a low hum of approval. Bold, he says, his eyes darkening slightly with an unreadable expression. I like that. Always did. He steps closer, his gaze intense. But don't do anything funny while you shower. I'd prefer to avoid complications. I swallow hard, nodding quickly as he gestures toward the door. With a final glance, I step through it, my mind racing with a mixture of confusion and cautious curiosity. Chapter 10. I step into his room, the heavy weight of his earlier words lingering in the air. Without hesitation, I head straight for the bathroom, the sound of the door clicking shut behind me. I peel off my clothes, my mind still racing from our exchange. The shower is warm, the water hitting my skin like a gentle cascade, washing away the tension that had built up between us. I stand there for a moment, letting the steam envelop me, the water soothing my body while my thoughts remain tangled. As the hot water flows over me, I reach for the soap, lathering my skin, trying to clear my mind of the whirlwind that is him. There's something about his presence that makes everything feel heavier, more intense. I rinse off quickly, the sensation of the water running over my skin offering brief comfort before the reality of what I've left behind settles in again. Wrapped in nothing but a towel, I step out of the shower and make my way to the bed, sitting on its edge. I fold my arms across my chest, waiting for him. It doesn't take long. Quite the view, he says, his voice rich with amusement, his eyes scanning over me as I sit on the bed. His smirk is evident, but there's something deeper in his gaze. His presence fills the room as he enters, shedding his jacket and shirt, his movements fluid, like he's used to being observed. He pauses for a moment, his back to me as he undoes his pants, the casualness of it making the air between us crackle with an unspoken tension. How did your meeting go? I ask, my voice a little more than a whisper, my focus on him as he casually gets dressed. He grunts, tossing his shirt to the side as he looks over his shoulder at me. It went fine, he says, though there's a slight edge to his voice. I nod, my eyes never leaving him, my curiosity piqued by the way he's so unconcerned with his undressing. His gaze meets mine briefly, but his attention shifts as if he's trying to focus on something else. Does it hurt? I ask softly, the question slipping from my lips before I can stop it. Did it hurt? When you burst into that mighty flaming phoenix to save me. He turns to face me fully, his brows furrowing as he considers the question. Hurt? He looks at me, confused at first. When I changed. No, not that I remember the shift. I was more preoccupied with getting to you in time than anything physical. I nod, a strange sense of relief washing over me, but I can't shake the feeling of guilt. I'm sorry, I murmur, closing the distance between us, my hand reaching out to cup his face gently. I'm glad I made it in time. Truly. I look at him, my heart pounding in my chest as I wait for him to say more. For a fleeting moment, our eyes lock, and he leans in, his lips brushing mine just for an instant before he pulls away abruptly. You should get dressed, he says, his voice strained with discomfort. Did I do something wrong? I ask, my voice laced with confusion. No, he says, his tone softer now, but his voice sharpens just a little. Just get dressed. I step back, unsure of how to proceed, but I turn to gather my clothes. As I start to put them on, I hear his voice again, heavy with something I can't quite place. Anger is a fleeting flame. It burns quickly, but it dissipates just as fast. But this. He pauses, his voice softer, a dangerous edge to it. This is hard to contain, and I can't control it. I sense the fear in his words, and it only makes my heart race faster. I walk toward him, my hand instinctively reaching for his back, the warmth radiating from him almost burning me. What are you afraid of? I ask, my voice barely above a whisper. Of burning you, he replies, his voice cracking slightly. A long silence stretches between us, and then he lets out a sigh, as if the weight of something pressing on him becomes too much to bear. You should return to your room. Get some rest, he says, his voice firmer now. But you were the one who asked me here, I protest, my confusion turning into something else, something hurt, though I don't fully understand it. He looks at me, the expression in his eyes darkening. And I changed my mind. Now leave. I hesitate, caught in a mix of emotions I can't name. What if I don't? He looks at me torn but takes out his baton and places it on the table next to me, a quiet warning. And if I sit willingly? I ask, my voice shaking slightly despite my defiance. Just leave, he says again, his tone softer, pleading. Please, listen to me just this once. Something inside me snaps, but I know I have to listen. As I turn to leave, I can't help myself. I reach out, my fingers grazing his face gently, almost reverently. He leans into the touch for a moment, but then pulls away, the distance between us widening once again. Good night, I say, my voice barely audible as I close the door behind me. Chapter 11. Back in my room, I can't shake the feeling of his touch still lingering on my skin. Was his face burning hot, or had I imagined it? I look at the palm of my hand, and it's red, as though I've touched a hot stove. I run it under cold water, hoping to cool the heat that's radiating from it. My phone chimes, pulling me from my thoughts. Are you okay? The text is short, simple, but something about it twists inside me, like he's waiting for something from me, an answer, a reaction. But what am I supposed to say? How do I even explain this feeling? I'm fine. Just a little wounded pride. The words are typed and sent before I even think about them. It's a lie, of course. My pride is not what's wounded. It's my heart, my mind. The longing that still resides inside me, even after everything. Don't lie to me. I don't know how to respond to that, but I can't backpedal now. I'm not lying. The bond. Remember. He texts. Damn it. Is your hand okay? It will be. But I know that's not true. It's not just my hand that hurts. It's my soul. I lay back in the bed, the quiet of the night wrapping around me like a suffocating blanket. I don't understand him. I roll over, burying my face into the pillow, trying to chase away the confusion, the ache. My thoughts swirl, tangled and dizzying. The heat of his gaze. The fierce way he had looked at me, touched me, and then pushed me away. How can someone be so cruel and yet show a kind of softness that makes me long for it, makes me ache with desire for more? I toss and turn, the sheets twisting around me, but sleep doesn't come. I'm too awake, too alive with questions and emotions that have no clear answer. Each time I close my eyes, I see him, his face, his body, the strength in his hands, but also that moment when he pulled away, as if my presence was too much for him. I don't know what hurts more, the pain of being rejected or the twisted part of me that still wants him, still yearns for him, even after everything he's done. Why did he pull away? Was I not good enough? Was I too eager? Or was it that he didn't want me at all, not in that way? God, why am I even asking myself this? The hours stretch on, an agonizing blur of disjointed thoughts and yearning. I can't quiet my mind. I need him, or at least an explanation. I need something from him to make sense of this madness. And yet, every time I think about him, about his touch, about how easily he could bring me to my knees, I feel this ache inside me, a longing that both terrifies and excites me. He's hurt me, humiliated me, but that need for him, is still there. And it feels like it's eating me alive. Was I ready to give him everything? I can't believe I was. I thought I could, thought I would, and yet now he's gone. And I'm left with this tangled mess of desire, confusion, and anger. I feel so small, so fragile in this moment. A part of me wants to surrender completely to him, to the heat of his touch, to let him do with me what he will. But the other part of me, the part that remembers the pain, the bruises, the shame, I can't ignore that either. And still, in the back of my mind, his words echo. You should get dressed. No, commanded. His tone was gentle but firm, a reminder of the power he held over me. And I had obeyed, even when a part of me wanted to scream, wanted to run. I'm caught between those two parts of myself, the girl who wants to break free, and the girl who feels chained to him, desperate for his touch, for his approval, for his attention. I was ready to surrender. I feel so weak. I want to cry, but the tears don't come. Instead, my chest tightens, and I feel the gnawing hunger for something, anything, from him. Is this what he's done to me? I close my eyes again, trying to shut out the tumult inside. Sleep still eludes me, but eventually, I drift into an uneasy slumber, the pain of everything unresolved haunting my dreams. Chapter 12. As I wake, sunlight streaming faintly through the curtains, my eyes catch the vibrant red of a rose lying next to me on the bed. Its petals are soft, freshly plucked, and the scent wafts faintly in the air, mingling with the cool day breeze. Beside it is a note, his sharp, deliberate handwriting impossible to miss. I try to wake you. See. For a moment, I stare at the words, reading and rereading them, as though they might suddenly make sense. But the longer I look, the more frustration simmers in my chest until it spills over. Arg! The sound escapes me in a guttural cry, raw and filled with all the emotions I've been holding back. My fists clench around the note as I crumple it, my breaths shallow and fast. Damn you, Cole. Damn you. I whisper, voice breaking, as I curl into myself on the bed, hugging my knees tightly. The rose lies forgotten, its beauty mocking my turmoil. The door creaks open, and his presence fills the room before he even speaks. Are you okay? His voice is steady, but there's a faint undercurrent of concern. I whip my head up to meet his gaze, my words sharp and venomous. No, I'm not okay. I bark, my chest heaving. What do you think, Cole? Do I look okay to you? His jaw tightens, but he doesn't retaliate. Instead, he exhales slowly, as though summoning patience. Can we talk about this later? Of course. Sure. Just dismiss me, Cole, I snap, my voice dripping with sarcasm and bitterness. Do whatever the hell you want, as always. Gorina, don't you dare say my name, I cut him off, my voice rising again. Just get out. Leave. I see the flicker of anger in his eyes, the way his posture stiffens. It's palpable, a heavy charge in the air between us. My body tenses instinctively, bracing for his response. Enough with this behavior, he says, his tone now icy, devoid of the softness he'd shown before. You will be punished if you continue. Fine. I shout, standing abruptly and facing him head on. Punish me, Cole. Flip over your stick and do whatever you want. Isn't that what you do best? His expression darkens, a storm brewing behind his eyes. But there's something else, too, a hint of curiosity, as though he's trying to understand my outburst. You crave my attention that badly? He asks, his voice low and taut with restrained emotion. I square my shoulders, refusing to back down. Punish me, I demand, my voice trembling despite my resolve. I'm waiting. But the truth burns inside me, I need him to touch me, to see me, to feel me. Soft or rough, I don't care. I just need something. Anything. Later, he says abruptly, his tone dismissive. I'm busy right now, and you're holding me up. He turns to leave, and desperation grips me. Are you not man enough to do it? I throw the words at his retreating back, my voice laced with defiance. He stops, his hand clenching at his side. Then, without warning, he turns and strikes, one sharp slap, enough to sting but not enough to truly hurt. And then he's gone, the door closing behind him with a resounding finality. I stand there, stunned, the sting on my cheek nothing compared to the chaos inside me. My frustration boils over again, but this time it feels hopeless, directionless. I let myself fall back onto the bed, tears spilling over despite my attempts to hold them back. What is wrong with me? I hate him. I loathe him. But I need him. I want him to hold me, to kiss me, to make me feel something other than this maddening emptiness. I hate the sight of him, but I can't bear the thought of him gone. The conflict inside me is unbearable, a constant war between anger and longing, hatred and desire. I bury my face in my hands and sob softly, my body trembling with the weight of it all. Chapter 13. A few hours pass. I'm still sitting in the same spot on the bed, motionless. My arms are wrapped around my knees, holding myself together. My sobs dried hours ago, leaving behind a dull ache in my chest that refuses to fade. The sunlight has shifted in the room, the golden glow now turning pale, cold. The door creaks open, and his voice breaks the silence. Your door's not locked anymore, but you haven't left your room, he says, his tone softer than usual but still carrying that infuriating confidence that makes me want to scream. I lift my head slowly, my gaze locking with his. What do you want? To check in on you, he replies, leaning against the doorway. His posture is relaxed, but there's something in his expression that's unreadable. Why do you care? I snap, my voice bitter. You dismiss me anyway when you see fit. His jaw tightens briefly, but he doesn't flinch. I get it. You're still upset about not spending the night. Upset is a mild word for it. I stand and move to the edge of the bed, facing him fully now. My voice is steady, but there's an unmistakable edge to it as I continue. I don't get it. I literally offered myself to you that night, and you sent me away without so much as a second thought. Do I put you off that much? His gaze sharpens, but instead of retorting, his voice drops low. You have no idea what you do to me. Then tell me, I demand, my hands gripping the edge of the mattress. You had no issue forcing that baton on me before, but when I willingly offer you my body, you don't want it. Why? I care for you, Karina, he says, and for once, there's no hint of sarcasm or cruelty in his tone. He pauses, his expression pained. That night, something shifted. When I found you, I thought I was too late to save you. He falters, his words catching in his throat. I didn't want you to be gone by the time I got there. I stare at him, stunned. My voice wavers when I speak. You were actually scared of losing me? After you threw me through a goddamn window? His lips press into a thin line, and his gaze doesn't waver. I knew you'd be okay with the pull beneath. And yes, he says softly, I was scared of losing you. You're twisted, I whisper, shaking my head. You crave me, he counters, his words deliberate, as though testing the truth of them. His voice lowers further. Just as much as I crave you. My breath catches in my throat, and before I can think, the words tumble out. Then take me. I can't control my flames, he says, his voice trembling slightly. If I lose control, if I burst into the phoenix, you'd be gone. Instantly. A pile of ash. I can't risk it. But you could before, with your stick anyway, I counter, frustration lacing my tone. I didn't care for you as much then. His admission hangs in the air, heavy and raw. My chest tightens as I try to process it. Then use the baton, I say, desperation creeping into my voice. His lips twitch into a faint smile, but there's no humor in it. I don't think it works that way. I get aroused just thinking about your body, Karina. Thinking about touching it. And when that happens, my heat rises. You know it. You've felt it. I swallow hard, unable to deny it. The truth is, I felt it, his heat radiating from him, making my own body flush in response, as though tethered to his. Can we at least try? I ask, my voice barely above a whisper, my eyes pleading with him. His gaze softens, and for a moment, I think he might cave. Come to my room in 1 hour, he says finally. I nod, and without another word, he turns and leaves, the door clicking shut behind him. As I sit back on the bed, my heart races, a mixture of fear, hope, and longing. 1 hour. It feels like an eternity, yet not nearly enough time to prepare myself for whatever might come next. My mind is a storm of thoughts, each one pulling me in a different direction. My body yearns for him, for his touch, for clarity, but my heart still wrestles with the memories of his cruelty, his detachment, his refusal. Chapter 14. I stand and pace the room, the minutes ticking by slower than I thought possible. My fingers trace over the red rose still lying on the bed. I bring it to my nose, inhaling its faint, sweet scent, and wonder why he left it. Was it a peace offering? A promise? Or was it just another puzzle piece in the maddening game we're playing? My phone buzzes on the nightstand, startling me. I pick it up to find a simple text from him. It's time. A shiver runs through me as I set the phone down and make my way to the door. Each step feels heavy, deliberate, and by the time I reach his door, my palms are damp with nerves. I knock lightly, the sound barely audible to my own ears, but he must hear it. The door opens within seconds, and there he stands, his presence commanding as ever. He's dressed simply, his shirt sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms corded with muscle, and his eyes hold an intensity that makes me momentarily forget how to breathe. Come in, he says, his voice steady but low, and I step inside. The room is dimly lit, a single lamp casting a golden glow over the space. The air feels warmer, charged, as though the heat radiates from him alone. He stands near the table, his hands resting on its edge. His posture is casual, but there's a tension in his shoulders, a barely contained energy that mirrors my own. I close the door behind me and take a hesitant step forward, my heart pounding so loudly I'm sure he can hear it. You made it, he says, breaking the silence. Of course I did. My voice is softer than I intended, almost unsure, and I hate how vulnerable it sounds. He nods, his eyes scanning me, reading me in a way that makes me feel both exposed and exhilarated. You're nervous. I'm unsure, I admit. But I'm here. His lips twitch, not quite a smile but something close to it. That's what matters. My gaze flickers around the room, taking in the sparse furniture, the neatly made bed, and then to the table beside him. My eyes land on the space where the baton usually rests. It's empty. I gesture toward it. Where's your stick? He follows my gaze but doesn't answer right away. For a moment, I think he's ignoring the question, but then he speaks, his voice softer than I've ever heard it. I don't want to use it on you. Not anymore. His words hang in the air, and before I can respond, he closes the distance between us in 2 quick steps. His hands cup my face with a tenderness I didn't know he was capable of, and then his lips crash onto mine. The kiss is anything but gentle. It's raw, consuming, and it steals the air from my lungs. His heat washes over me, his body pressing against mine as though he's afraid to let go. My fingers find their way into his hair, tangling there as I return the kiss with equal fervor, all my doubts, fears, and confusion momentarily drowned out by the sheer intensity of this moment. When he finally pulls back, his breath is ragged, his forehead resting against mine. You don't know what you're doing to me, he whispers, his voice strained. Show me, I reply, my own voice trembling but resolute. He steps back, his gaze searching mine as though he's trying to commit every detail to memory. If we do this, he begins, but his words trail off, and I can see the conflict in his eyes. If we do this, I won't regret it, I say firmly. His hands drop to his sides, clenching into fists for a brief moment before he exhales slowly. Neither will I. The tension in the room is palpable as we stand there, the space between us charged with unspoken promises and unrelenting desire. For the first time, I feel as though we're on the precipice of something neither of us can turn back from. He steps closer again, the hesitation melting away as his hands find my face once more, his thumbs brushing lightly over my cheeks. His touch is warm, no, hot, and I can feel the fire he's holding back, simmering just beneath the surface. His gaze locks onto mine, intense and unwavering, as though he's searching for something deep within me. The air between us feels heavy, charged with an energy that crackles like a flame about to ignite. His forehead presses against mine, and for a moment, we simply breathe together, our breaths mingling in the silence. I can feel it, I whisper, my voice barely audible. Feel what? His tone is equally soft, his lips so close to mine that I can feel their warmth. The heat. It's alive, almost. It's part of me, he murmurs. And now, part of you too. His fingers slide down from my face, trailing over my neck and shoulders, leaving a path of warmth in their wake. I shiver despite the heat, my body responding to his every movement as though it's attuned to him in a way I can't quite understand. I need you to trust me, he says, his voice low and earnest. I'll never hurt you, Garina. Not like that. Not again. I trust you, I reply without hesitation. His lips brush against mine again, softer this time, a lingering touch that sets my skin ablaze. He doesn't deepen the kiss right away, instead letting it stretch out, savoring the connection between us. His hands move to my waist, his grip firm but not overbearing, grounding me even as my knees threaten to buckle beneath me. I reach up, my hands resting against his chest. His heart is racing beneath my palms, the steady rhythm betraying the control he's trying so hard to maintain. I can feel his restraint, the way he's holding himself back, and it only makes me want him more. He pulls back slightly, his eyes scanning my face as though memorizing every detail. You have no idea how much I want you right now, he admits, his voice rough with barely contained emotion. Then stop holding back, I whisper, the words slipping out before I can stop them. A deep growl escapes his throat, low and primal, and he closes the distance between us once more. His lips claim mine with renewed intensity, his kiss demanding yet careful, as though he's afraid of overwhelming me. His heat is all-encompassing now, seeping into me until it feels like my own blood is on fire. He lifts me effortlessly, his strength both startling and exhilarating, and carries me the short distance to the bed. Gently, he lays me down, hovering over me with an intensity that makes my breath hitch. Are you okay? He asks, his voice softer now, almost tender. Yes, I manage, my voice trembling slightly. He leans down, pressing his lips to my forehead, then to the corner of my mouth, then to the sensitive skin just below my ear. Each kiss sends a shiver down my spine, and I feel my hands instinctively gripping his arms, desperate for something to hold on to. I need you to tell me if it's too much, he murmurs against my skin, his breath hot and tantalizing. I will, I promise, though I'm not sure I could ever ask him to stop. He trails his hands down my arms, his touch light but deliberate, and intertwines his fingers with mine. For a moment, he simply holds my hands, his thumbs brushing over my knuckles as he looks down at me. Can you take me whole? He asks, his voice low and filled with an almost reverent vulnerability. I bite my lip, hesitating for a moment before answering honestly. I'm not sure about that. He smiles, a soft, almost boyish grin that takes me by surprise. Don't worry, he says gently, his thumb grazing my cheek. I'll ease you into it. I feel the depth of his care in the way he touches me, in the way he looks at me. He brushes a strand of hair from my face, his fingers lingering for a moment longer than necessary, and for the first time, I see the man beneath the fire, the vulnerability he so carefully hides, and I realize just how much I mean to him. It's overwhelming, terrifying, and yet, I wouldn't trade this moment for anything in the world. His lips find mine again, and the kiss grows deeper, more intense. The heat between us rises, but he remains controlled, his touch slow and deliberate. His hands slide down to my thighs, lifting me slightly. I can feel the tension in him, the careful restraint he's holding onto with every fiber of his being. His lips leave mine to trail down my jaw, my neck, and lower still, each kiss sending shivers through my body. The intimacy of the moment is overwhelming, not in its urgency but in its depth. It's as though every touch, every glance, every whispered word is etching itself into my soul. And then, just as he begins to move, something shifts. As he slides in, the very tip of him breaching me, his eyes widen, and the fire within him rises to the surface. Flames as feathers emerge from his back, and he shouts in agony as his body bursts into flames, setting the room alight, myself included. I'm sure this is how it ends, that I'll be reduced to ashes within seconds. But instead, as my body arches forward, I feel it, something inside me awakens. Through the connection we share, through our bond, I absorb the flames, extinguishing the fire and him. He collapses forward, his body trembling against mine, both of us breathing heavily. His golden eyes search mine, wide with disbelief. "Did you do all that?" he asks, his voice filled with awe. I nod, still trying to catch my breath. I think we just discovered the true meaning of our bond. Do you know what this means? That you can't burn me, even when you lose control? I tease, though my voice is shaky. Besides that, he murmurs, a teasing smile playing on his lips as he presses a kiss to my thigh. I arch a brow, waiting for him to continue, but he takes his time, trailing kisses along my skin. For a moment, I think I might be the one to burst into flames. It means more kisses, his lips moving with deliberate slowness. We're not leaving this bed for the next 2 days. At least. 2 days? I manage to ask, my voice barely audible, my breath hitching. At least, he repeats, his grin widening as his lips move lower, brushing against the most sensitive part of me, his breath hot against my skin. His hands slide between my legs, fingers grazing my inner thighs with a deliberate slowness that has me trembling beneath him. The teasing, the anticipation, it's all too much. I let out a soft moan, my head tilting back as the heat between us grows, my body responding to every touch, every kiss. Cole pauses for a moment, his golden eyes meeting mine, filled with a mix of amusement and desire. "That sound," he murmurs, his voice low and full of unspoken promises. "You have no idea what it does to me." Before I can respond, his lips return, kissing the sensitive skin he's just teased. His movements are slow, purposeful, his hands anchoring me in place as his touch deepens. My fingers tangle in the sheets as I surrender completely to the moment, his warmth, his intensity, his devotion consuming me. And as the sensations wash over me, leaving me breathless and utterly undone, I realize one thing: 2 days might not be nearly enough. The end.